As Razer continues to expand its product line beyond just PC peripherals, they're bolstering up the console offerings with the brand new Razer Wolverine V2 Chroma. As the top-tier controller for the Xbox Series X and S, Xbox One, and PC, this new controller takes technology from the Wolverine V2 that we reviewed just last year and takes it to the next level with more multifunction buttons and, of course, Razer Chroma. So let's dive in and take a closer look at the Razer Wolverine V2 Chroma. Thanks for watching 9 to 5 Toys. Be sure to like, subscribe, and enable notifications with the bell icon so you don't miss any upcoming videos. Hey everyone, this is Jordan with 9 to 5 Toys. To promote their new top-of-the-line controller, Razer delivered it in a ridiculous media kit, along with a Kyra Pro headset, to show off their top-tier offerings for the Xbox. All of the accessories were in the box, but it's obviously not what most consumers can expect with their packaging. Included in this ridiculous media box is a USB-C to USB-A cable to connect the controller to an Xbox or PC, and 2 different sizes of interchangeable thumbsticks. One is taller with a concave rubber grip, while the other is the same height as the stock thumbsticks but has a domed or convex rubber grip. Like the Wolverine V2 that we looked at last winter, the V2 Chroma has an updated, more ergonomic layout than the stock Xbox Series X and S controller. Looking at the profile, there is a little bit of contour closer to the triggers, and then they expand out more towards the grips where your palm would be on your hand for a really easy to grab controller. And this updated design does feel really good in the hand. It makes the controller very easy to grip. It feels like there's more of a slot there where my middle fingers rest and just makes it a very comfortable controller to hold. Sometimes if you're playing an intense game and you grip it a little bit tight, it still feels really good when doing that. And there's plenty of texture all around the grip on the front and the back, so you don't have to worry about, your hands slipping or anything like that. I find that this has plenty of texture to it. Looking at the face of the controller, it's much simpler than that of the Turtle Beach Recon controller that we recently reviewed. The Wolverine V2 Chroma features a round D-pad, which is an update over the older Wolverine V2, and all of the normal face buttons, menu controls, and upload buttons. Where things start to get a little more interesting is on the front of the controller near the triggers. Just like the normal Wolverine V2, the Chroma has those 2 additional bumpers that can be assigned to any input. They're further in towards the center of the controller and require a bit of a stretch for me to reach, and so while you may not want to map a frequently used button there, it can add a lot of flexibility and a lot of customization to your setup. The Wolverine V2 Chroma also features trigger locks that greatly reduce the distance needed to pull a trigger. For FPS games, this can make trigger pulls much more responsive when time is of the essence, but for games that require a little more trigger finesse, like driving games, you'll want to turn this off in favor of more trigger movement. And of course, one of the most notable updates over the regular Wolverine V2 is the addition of 4 mappable buttons on the back side of the controller. Rather than a more standard paddle design that many controllers use, like the Elite series from Xbox, or SCUF, or the Fusion Pro from PowerA, the Wolverine V2 Chroma uses smaller buttons located closer to the middle of the controller. And I'm not really sure how I feel about this setup. I've grown very accustomed to the layout of the standard Elite controller where the paddles sit right underneath my fingers and are very easy to find and press. But with these buttons on the Wolverine V2 Chroma, my hand doesn't naturally rest on them, and I have to reach a little bit to actuate them. Sometimes I found myself actually reverting back to kind of a claw grip to occasionally press the face buttons, rather than reaching further behind the controller to find that little trigger button. Now, it originally took me a while to get used to the paddles on the Elite controller, and it could just be that I just haven't had the time necessary to get used to the Wolverine V2 Chroma's buttons back here. I only received the kit a few days before recording this video. But when I did focus on using those buttons, it is a big improvement over moving your thumb away from the stick in order to press a face button. Anything that makes it easier to leave your thumb locked onto the stick for quick movements is an improvement in my opinion. One other benefit of this layout is that you don't have to remove the triggers or paddles if you decide not to use them for a game. With the Elite controller, because of where they are positioned, it's very easy to accidentally press because they're right underneath your fingers. I would remove them anytime I switched to a game that I didn't want to use them for, but it's pretty easy to avoid them altogether on the Wolverine V2 Chroma. And sometimes you don't want to use the multi-purpose triggers though, because the face buttons feel and sound incredible. Just like the tactile feel and audible click that you would find on a nice clicky Razer keyboard, these Mecha-tactile buttons are a treat to actuate. The D-pad also shares the same sound and feel. And here we'll do a sound test between a normal Xbox Series X controller and the Wolverine V2 Chroma. Configuring all of the custom buttons can be done within the Razer Controller Setup for Xbox app, and here there are controls for button assignments, motor vibration, lighting effects, and the sensitivity clutch. It provides plenty of control for getting the controller set up just how you want it, and it's available for both PC and Xbox. And as we can tell from the name, the Wolverine V2 Chroma has Razer Chroma built into the controller. Instead of using Razer Synapse software to adjust settings, the Wolverine V2 Chroma uses the Razer Control Setup for Xbox app. The lighting wraps around the top of the grips on the controller and is visible when holding the controller, but really only from directly above the controller. It'd be interesting if there were some accents on the front of it or the face of it a little bit more, so you could get a little more chroma, a little more color in there. And the last feature that kind of sets the Wolverine V2 Chroma apart is the ability to set up a sensitivity clutch that can drop the sensitivity of a thumbstick when a button is pressed. Much like the technology found on the Basilisk line of mice, this can be a mappable button, and as you hold that button, the sensitivity of your thumbstick will drop. And so this gives you maybe a little bit more accuracy when sniping, at least that is the intention. Unlike the Turtle Beach Recon controller, which also has something similar to this, the one on the Wolverine V2 Chroma is more useful to me because the clutch can adjust the sensitivity of both thumbsticks rather than just the right thumbstick like the Turtle Beach Recon controller. In use though, I still don't really find myself using this feature very often. So overall, wrapping up here, for $150, the Razer Wolverine V2 Chroma has a lot of great features for the competitive player. As a wired controller, you never need to worry about running out of battery at the worst times, and the 6 additional mappable buttons make the controller very versatile for different play styles, as do the interchangeable thumbsticks and trigger locks. Though if you don't want the additional mappable buttons or interchangeable thumbsticks, then the $100 Wolverine V2 might be a better pick for you. And be sure to hit our review of that. I'll put a link to that down in the description, and there's also a card in the upper right corner of this video. But one other thing to keep in mind here is that for just $30 more than the Wolverine V2 Chroma, you can get the Xbox Elite Series 2, a wireless controller that, for me, features a better paddle setup, is wireless, and has adjustable tension thumbsticks, which makes the taller thumbsticks feel much better than a stock setup. And while a wired controller might be better for competitive play and the face buttons on the Wolverine V2 Chroma feel and sound incredible, I do really enjoy the wireless setup of the Elite controllers. Well, that'll do it for this quick review of the Razer Wolverine V2 Chroma. Let us know what you think about it down in the comments below. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing. This is Jordan with 9to5 Toys.